Hi everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. Welcome to the Merry Makers Christmas Craft Collab. All of these collab members are bringing to you projects each week. Here are the prompts of the project. So you can see I've made a mini album, and this one I didn't show you during the week, but I showed you later in the week because I didn't have time. But it was part of what I tried to use that was in my Christmas stash. I had this Warm Wishes collection from Graphic 45. All I had was the 8x8 collection. And after I made that mini album, here are my scraps. So as you can see, there's not enough for me to make another mini album, but that's okay because this week the prompt is Christmas cards. So I am going to show you what I can do with all of these long, thin pieces. I saved some pictures in Pinterest and I saw something on there, and lo and behold, my friend Margaret Nab made a card actually using Warm Wishes. She did it a little differently. I needed mine to be smaller because my pieces weren't that big. So this is the one I made following her tutorial, and I'll link that in the description box. But like I said, my pieces were smaller, so I had to adjust it. So pardon my scribbles, but that was my test piece. It looks complicated, but really it's just 4 sets of papers folded, scored very easily, and then we put the pattern paper on it. So let me show you how to do this. Let's start with the first layer of paper. We're going to start out really easy. For the first layer, you'll need 2 pieces of cardstock that are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now these are the measurements for the decorative paper. I used some gold cardstock because I had all these little pieces and I wanted to smash those as well as my paper. Now I did cut a hole out of the gold so it didn't get too bulky, but that gold piece measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then I covered it with green cardstock from another Graphic 45 collection because I really didn't have any big pieces. That was 4 by 5 1/4. By the way, the last 2 pieces of cardstock were heavyweight cardstock. All the rest are 65 pounds. So the next piece is our center panel, which is 5 by 5 1/2. You'll need 2 of those. And with the 5-inch side at the top, score at 1/2, 2 1/2, and 4. All right, so there's that. And what we're going to do, I'm erasing some of this so the writing doesn't show up, but I didn't want to forget it. Let's fold and burnish on those score lines. It's really important to fold and burnish on all the score lines as you're making this. It just makes everything move a little easier. So what we're going to do is add our 2 other panels to this first. I'm just burnishing. So let's grab the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Oh no, let's cover this first. So what we're going to cover this with is a couple of different panels to cover each side of that. The gold is 1 7/8 by 5 3/8, and the pattern paper is 1 3/4 by 5 1/4. So I'm just taking this sort of checkered paper to put on. It's not going to be a predominant panel. You're not going to see it a lot. So I'm just using something that's, almost a neutral, basically. So I've got that, and I'm going to add glue to it, and we'll go ahead and glue it onto the 2 large sections. I realize as I'm doing this, it's easier if I fold it so I can see where the edge of the paper is and make sure it is folded, or make sure I place it correctly. So anyhow, I'm going to glue everything on. And burnish real well. Okay. So I'm going to fold the tab up and fold it in just to make sure the placement is right, add glue to the tab, and then butt up my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece right up to that fold line, push this over and burnish. So that gives you a nice, good even mark. All right, I'll burnish this, grab my other piece. So I didn't miter the first one, and I thought, you know what, I really should be mitering this. So I mitered. Okay, now I'll add glue to the tab, push my other base piece right up next to it, and there we go. And then I'll go ahead and glue these other panels on top of the base piece. Is this the inside or the outside of the card? Yes, you'll see. You'll see. Just watch the video once over, maybe write down the measurements, and then cut out your papers and make it along with me. Now, for some reason, there is more white showing on the edge of this. I don't think I ever figured out if I cut something wrong, but I do trim it later, but you don't even notice. Okay, let me grab my next pieces and I'll tell you the measurements. Okay, 2 more pieces of cardstock that are 4 inches by 5 inches. With the 5-inch side at the top, we are going to score. We'll score at 1 1/4, 2 1/2, and 3 3/4. 1 1/4, 2 1/2, and 3 3/4. So do that to both pieces. These are going to make a cube. So again, fold and burnish on our score lines. I hope you don't mind, but I fast forwarded through this part because you don't need to watch me burnish. All right, and then I'm going to take, so on the side that's going to go on the right, I guess I decided let's put the pattern paper on first. So you will need 4 pieces of gold or whatever you're going to use for your base paper, 3 7/8 by 1 1/8. The ones that go on the top are 3 3/4 by 1. So the thing about this is, I know I wanted to use the red. Yeah, there's the red. So some of the red goes one direction, some goes the other. I did have to trim one down. I realized I cut 2 of them a little bit too big, so I trimmed them down and glue the red paper on top of the gold, and then decided I'm just going to wait till I adhere this onto the card before I add these onto the paper we're working on next. So one more and then we're done. Okay, there we go. Little trimming, little glue. Voila, we're done. Okay, so let me move these out of the way. So it's going to go one on the left side, one on the right side. So I'm going to add glue to one of the tabs. I center it up and down and push it in. I burnish the glue, and then I'm going to add glue to the last tab, the one all the way to the right, and then put it in and burnish. So again, I'll add glue to the tab here for the left side, the tab on the right, put it down to the bottom. I know where the bottom is because it'll stop. Burnish it, add glue to the left tab, fold that in half, and burnish. That way you know that you've got a good stick. Okay, then I'm going to take my red papers. Whoops, this one goes on the side, Debbie. Take it off, move it. Yeah, you realized it. Okay, good. Just because you don't see the side that much. So I wanted, I don't know if you could see. Probably nobody noticed but me. The orientation was off. Okay, there's that one. I'm liking it so far. What do you think? And then we'll add these 2 pieces to the top. The backs of the gold are different colors. One's white and one is craft color, just because I bought it at different times and they've changed the material. All right, so we are done with that layer. Now let's move on to the next. Okay, so you'll need 2 pieces that are 4 3/4 by 3. You'll put them in the scoreboard with the 4 3/4 at the top, score it 1/2 and 1 1/4, and then rotate it and score it at 1/2 and 1 1/4. So you'll have those two. Now I end up cutting off one of those 1/2-inch tabs, but it will work for now. All right, the gold paper is 2 1/4 by 2 7/8. And then the pattern paper is 2 1/8 by 2 3/4. So I used that size specifically because I had these cut aparts. Now one was a little bit bigger than the other. The one that says Merry and Bright, I added some green paper below. Now the one on the right you see is sideways. So all I do is take one of the stamps, cut it down, and add it onto here. It's okay that we have Merry and Bright. That is where my sentiment is going to be. And if you look at the inspiration, Margaret's card has the sentiment in a different spot. I also need 2 little pieces. So one is, so the gold paper for the side is 2 7/8 by 5/8, and the pattern paper is 2 3/4 by 1/2 inch. Little teeny tiny measurements, but it's okay. It looks nice. I like having that on the side. When you open it, you will see it, as you'll see in just a little bit. So anyhow, so now I'm going to fold and burnish the score lines of the paper, the cardstock. And I'll bring in my sentiment and put it on the big part. Now, I don't think I cut this. Something was wonky. I think I don't have the white paper the right size. So I'm trying to see if it will fit onto the other one. It doesn't matter. So now I realize it's not the white paper. It's my little cut apart. That's okay. It still looks fine. You don't notice it by the time all said and done. And I didn't want to stop the video to recut another one. But I do trim down the gold on the sides of this piece just to make sure it'll fit. Just teeny little piece. Okay, so I'll glue that to the main part of the other piece. And then I'll add the little side piece. Once you see it, then you'll know which side to put it on. All right, so we'll pull in the card. And so this is when I realize, yeah, I really should just cut off that tab. So that little 1/2-inch tab, it's gone. So there we go. So now I'll add glue to the other tab and center it on the page and burnish that one part down. Then I'll fold that over. Now this one's a little trickier because you want to make sure everything will fold when you put it down. So I add glue to it, I fold that down. I'm not pushing down hard on the glue, and then I squish it and then let it find the place that it needs to be. You know what I'm saying? Okay, now we'll cut off this little tab on that side, add glue, put that next to the side, try to make sure they're even. Good thing about it is you can move this back and forth. So then I'll add glue to this other tab, fold it over, and burnish. So now I realize I needed to have folded the card before I burnished. I had some glue there. I grab an eraser, just trying to get some of it off. It's not terrible. And burnish it all down. So there's the main part of the card. Now we have one other piece we're going to put on here. All right, this time for the centerpiece, we only need one piece of cardstock that is 4 by 2 1/4. You're going to put the 4 inside at the top and score it 1/2, 2, and 3 1/2. I'm erasing again so it doesn't show. The gold pieces will be 2 1/8 by 1 3/8, and the pattern paper 2 by 1 1/4. So we'll go ahead and put these on. So since there's a sentiment already here. I don't need to add a sentiment to the center, although in the example, if you go look at it, she added the sentiment to the top. Now I do have these little pieces, little words. One says peace, one says love. So I'll put the peace up in the right-hand side and love down at the bottom left-hand side, just to have a little bit of verbiage and texture right there. So this is going to go in the center, right on that center piece, just sort of like a tent. So I'm going to put the glue on that tab. Of course, I burnished and folded it. I'll put that in. I'll burnish it a little bit more, and then I'll fold it, add glue to the other tab, and fold it again so it adheres to that other piece. So there is the center of the card. Isn't it adorable? It's just something different. And yes, I got to use up all of my scraps. It was a bit of work, but if you want something special for somebody. Now, I had to go into another collection to get some papers for this. So, what are the measurements? Since it was 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, this is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and the paper was 4 by 5 1/4. So I will adhere these onto the back panels. And then just for something a little decorative, I go into my stash and see what else I can find. So there are these little sentiment strips. So I decided, all right, let's go with that. So I'm going for the one that says Season's Greetings. And I'm going to grab a bird and one of the other stamps. I mean, they're not real stamps. I'm trying to decide if I really want this long piece. I want one of those, but I'm not sure which one. So I take the Season's Greetings and put it a little closer to the right side than the left, and put the bird on the left side above it. And then the other spot, which would be good for writing, you know, from Jane or whatever. And then I put a stamp there just to balance things out. So you would give it to somebody and they open it and they're like, wow. And then you can write a message there. So there we go. There is the little card that I made using my scraps. And I have just a couple more scraps, and I'm going to try to use it up, because that was the whole name of the game, use it up. So let me show you what I do to do that. Okay, wait, there's more. I am going to make some other cards. These are mostly all of the scraps. Some are square, some are rectangular. I don't have anything circular, and I suppose I could always have taken a corner rounder and rounded them, but I'm just working with square shapes for this moment. I want to show you a quick way to make these, because then once you have these, that gold looks fabulous, doesn't it? Once you have these, then you can add them to cards. You just have to have a little bit of an eye for design, but not like crazy. So I'm going to take this piece and I am going to glue it onto a scrap of gold. So I usually try to make the most of it, but this is for illustration purposes. So I'm just going to glue it on there. Then I'm taking this We're Memory Keepers layer guide. I could either do 5/16 or 1/16. I like really small matte margins. So I'm going to take this. So there's a little bevel that will catch at exactly 1/16 inch away from that paper. I'm just going to pull it there. It can't go any further. Take my straight edge, and there we go. I have a 1/16 guide right there. One there. One there. I mean, can't get any easier, can it? So there I have an even border all around this piece, and I can use that. Isn't this a great little toy? So you get 3 of them. They are We Are Memory Keepers Layer Guide. So I'll put a link in the description if I can find it. So anyhow, that's what I use to cut squares for my cards. Okay, so I've got, almost everything I had in scraps, although I did cut out some of those postage stamps. And let's just take a couple and play with it. So this one already says warm wishes, so I really don't have to do anything. And I'm just making that into a card. So I'll just add some glue. I'll line this up. I'm centering it on the page, and it's about 1/2 inch from the side. And then I want this over here, but I don't want this to, it needs to be on the same level. It's one of those weird things that I like to do. Other card makers do it. I'm not the only one. So I'll put 2 pieces of paper because I've got the gold and I've got the pattern paper, so I know there's 2. And plus it uses up more scraps. And then I'll put it right here. So there we go. Warm wishes. There is a card. I could have put gold around this, but I was using up all my little scraps of gold, and nobody else will notice. I'll notice. You'll notice. No one else will notice. All right, so there's one. I'm going to finish making some cards. I have these card bases, so I'm just going to play around a little bit and just get something that looks good to me. I'm not using card sketches. I'm just using squares and rectangles that are left over from after I made the mini album and the other card. But after that, that's it. That means that my stash is done. So I'm glad that I was able to use everything that came with this collection. It really was a pretty collection. So don't forget to look at all the other collaborators. They will be listed in the description box as well. There is a playlist that you can follow along and check out what other people have made. The prompt this week was holiday cards or Christmas cards. So we just thought at this point in time we would have some little pieces and it wouldn't take too much to make some cards. This is my process. I hope you enjoyed looking at this using the scraps and making that other card. Like I said, that would be great for somebody special, but you wouldn't make it for everybody on your card list. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you so much for watching. Have a fabulous day.